In this video, I'm going to teach you how to use one batch of dough to make all of this bread that you see in this clip. From this one batch of dough, I've made a loaf of sandwich bread, 8 dinner rolls that you can also use as burger buns, along with 4 specialty dinner rolls. Stay tuned to see how it all comes together. In this video, we're going to focus on the sandwich bread, and then the next video will be all about the dinner rolls and the specialty bread. The first step is to add some warm water to a bowl. This water does not need to be boiling hot because boiling water will kill off your yeast. Next, we're going to add some sugar to that water because yeast feeds on sugar. You can find yeast in the pouches or envelopes, these little packets here. They come pre-measured if you purchase them this way, or you can buy them in the jar like I'm showing you here. If you purchase it in a jar, they tell you on the back of that jar the measurements you'll need to equate to what's in the packet. The packets are more convenient, and that's what most people use. If you use a packet, you'll only need one for this recipe. I'm using the Active Dry Yeast because I only use Active Dry Yeast when I make this particular recipe. When you see movement in your yeast and it begins to foam up, that's what we're looking for. That lets you know that your yeast is active. I prefer to use bread flour whenever I make bread, but you can use all-purpose flour instead. That'll be fine. Our yeast is nice and foamy. We're going to go ahead and add some oil to that, along with some honey because this is a honey wheat bread, more water, and some milk. You can use buttermilk, you can use regular milk. I actually made this milk from scratch. I have a short clip video on YouTube if you want to check that out to see how to make this milk. I want to go ahead and give this a good stir, and we've just completed the wet ingredients that we'll need for our bread. Soon after we stir the ingredients, we're going to go ahead and start working with our dry ingredients, which is just some flour and salt. Go ahead and mix up that salt and flour and add it to your wet ingredients. Bread recipes will always give you the exact measurement for flour. I just want to be honest here and let you know that you'll always need more. We use the flour to dust our countertops so that the dough doesn't stick to the countertop or the surface that you're working on. And sometimes when you're going in and working with that dough, you'll notice that it's still too wet. The goal here is to have a stretchy, workable dough, and flour is what gives us that. So you'll see here that I will put some additional flour inside of a container and set that aside on my countertop. That way I'll already have some available when I need it. The kneading process is all about making this dough stretchy, okay? We can liken it to bubble gum. When you first put a piece of bubble gum in your mouth, you cannot blow a bubble right away. That's because you have to break it down with your teeth and your saliva in order to make it stretchy enough to form that bubble. That is the same concept here. So pretty much what you're doing here is you are pushing with your upper body strength and your palms and the wrist of your hand. You're pushing all of your weight back and forth into the dough, okay? You gather it and you push with your palms and your wrist. Notice I'm not sticking my fingernails into the dough, okay? That wouldn't really give you the type of texture you're looking for. Always use the inner portion of your hand to include your palm and push your wrist. After about 8 minutes of working with this dough, we're now ready to set it aside to begin to rise. I'm going to add some oil to this bowl to keep the dough from sticking to the bowl, and I'm going to cover it with the cloth and place it inside of my cold oven. Dark spaces allows the yeast to grow faster, and we want this dough to double in size. All right, now this is the fun part, punching down that dough. Go ahead and think about that person. I'm just kidding. Take out your frustrations on the dough. Go ahead and punch it down to remove the air and gas that's formed. Remember, we're saving half of this dough for the other half of the video, which would be all about the dinner rolls and the specialty bread. This next step is very important. What we're doing here is making sure that we don't put any holes in our bread by rolling out these air bubbles. You see what I'm pointing at right there? That is an air bubble. I'm going to get you closer so you can see what I'm talking about. We have to use the rolling pin to push out these air bubbles, or else they will put holes in our bread. Now we're ready to fold this dough into a loaf so that it can fit into our loaf pan to make our sandwich bread. You're going to see me pushing down and pinching on this bread to close it up, because that will keep it from opening up while it's baking. That is the side that you want to make sure is facing downward in your baking dish. Put the side that you pinch down into the baking dish first. Okay, you want to go ahead and cover this bread and let it rise one last time before we bake it. You'll have to tune into part 2 of the video to see the final outcome of the sandwich bread and to also see me make the dinner rolls and the specialty braided breads.